plucked directly from the comments section and served up hot out of the oven to you. Today on the channel, we are talking producing and performing pro wrestling tournaments. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. If you are passionate about the craft of professional wrestling and you're never done learning all about it, then you have landed in the exact right place. Join the Till We Make It tribe. Subscribe down below and enable notifications too. If you'd like to take your support and participation to the next level, come join my community over on Patreon. I have a special offer running until the end of this month. For anyone new joining at the Master tier, I'll watch one of your matches, do a complete review with my critique and feedback, and send that personalized information right to your inbox. Now, let's talk pro wrestling tournaments. Since the heyday of tape trading, pro wrestling tournaments have always drawn a higher than usual level of attention from customers. Not only do they outperform standard events at the box office, but they also do when commercialized after the fact, like as DVD sales or digital downloads. There's an inherent appeal in knowing that a complete story is going to be told throughout a tournament from end to end. And that complete story will probably be confined to 8 matches, maybe a single night or a single weekend. It's not a long-form story that will require an investment of attention that will last a year or longer. Elimination tournaments, sometimes referred to as knockout tournaments, most commonly take place in a single night, or maybe they get spread out to fill an entire weekend of events. But in the case of an elimination tournament, basically you lose and you're eliminated. Or in other words, you're knocked out of the game. The other most common type of tournament in professional wrestling is a round-robin tournament, and these do tend to be time-consuming affairs. That's because every wrestler in the tournament has to be paired up against every other participant. If not in the entire tournament, then in their bracket or in their block. Everybody faces everybody. Round-robin tournaments represent a certain logistical challenge, as I learned firsthand staging one of the most challenging events of my entire wrestling career, called the 12 Large Summit. If you've never heard of the 12 Large Summit before, I'm going to tell you about it right now. It's the tournament that I designed to crown the first grand champion of Chikara. This was back in 2011. It was 9 years ago, and the tournament itself took 5 months to complete because a double round robin means everyone faces everyone twice. And the tournament in name is meant to evoke a few things. Most importantly, it was meant to honor, and the tournament was dedicated to, my student and my friend, the late great Larry Sweeney. His initials, LS, are right there in 12 Large Summit, in addition to which 12 Large was the punchline to an infamous Larry Sweeney story. So, of course, all of that was lovingly baked right into the title of the tournament. It was also meant to lightly evoke the G1 Climax, another famous round-robin tournament. That one, of course, is the domain of New Japan Pro Wrestling. The 12 Large Summit ran from May to November of 2011. And I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned running not just that, but tons of other tournaments over the years, from Tag World Grand Prix to Young Lions Cups to Kings of Trios. The first thing I want you to consider when putting together your pro wrestling tournament is this. Wrestlers can get injured and wrestlers can get signed away, and there's nothing you can do about either of those eventualities. And both struck in the middle of the 12 Large Summit double round robin tournament. People got injured, and this wreaked havoc on the way the blocks were meant to play out. Plus, the WWE came calling and signed away one of the intended tournament finalists while we were in the middle of the round robin, meaning everything from that point forward had to be totally rewritten. The only thing that you can really do about this is go into your tournament with a plan B. And if you and I are of similar minds, that means you're also going to come up with a plan C and a plan D too. A second thing I think you've got to consider when putting together your tournament is, are all the wrestlers cast in the same style? Is everyone in the field a technical wrestler, like in the Johnny Kidd Invitational? Or A high-flying wrestler like in Rey de Voladores? If so, part of the responsibility for ensuring there is variety within the tournament matches will fall to the booker or matchmaker, which might be you. It's going to be up to them to vary the times and finishes to make sure the matches are all dissimilar. And part of the responsibility will fall to the wrestlers themselves to make sure they minimize redundancies. If you are the one producing or designing all the tournament matches, it will really call on your knowledge of wrestling dialects and nuances, as well as your ability to communicate clearly with the talent. Remember, the only person who is the unique sum total of all the wrestling you've watched, all the books that you've read, all the movies you've seen, all the video games that you've played is you. Only you hold that unique combination of ingredients and influences. And while the master plan might be crystalline in your mind, it's going to be incumbent on you to make it crystalline in the minds of others. That way, the end product matches up with your vision. A third point. Consider what trends in current tournaments you want to reference and which ones you want to avoid. If the trend is to do super long tournament finals, give some consideration to whether or not that is a trend that you want to engage with, or if that is a trend you want to buck. Remember, trends in pro wrestling change all the time, so you're going to have to retain a degree of flexibility. An example from my own career is King of Trios, the most complicated and most expensive thing I've ever produced. Sometimes planning for King of Trios begins 1 full year in advance, but a lot can happen in a year, so flexibility is a prerequisite. This next one gets overlooked all the time, so pay close attention. Number 4, spare a thought for the performers with the biggest workloads. Being asked to wrestle 3 times in a night is a tall order for anyone. Remember, there is a cycle of warming up, performing the match, and then cooling back down. And in addition to that physical cycle, there's also the mental cycle of purging the previous match from your system and doing all the prep work to be ready for the next match. Because these cycles can be time sensitive, consider the judicious deployment of intermissions, non-tournament matches, and other segments as part of your booking strategy. In my personal experience, the thing I always want to know about my tournament matches is how much time I will have in between each performance. And if I can be advised of that information the day before the card, even better. Sometimes I even want to pack different sets of gear so that for each subsequent match, I can walk out in a clean set feeling refreshed. One constant theme runs through all 4 of these points: preparation. Whether you are the one booking or designing the tournament, or maybe you're performing in each of the matches, I believe that the best possible results are always rooted in the amount of preparation that you do for the big day. If you want to be as prepared as possible to elevate your pro wrestling performances, then you need to load up your utility belt with new weapons, new tips, and new tricks. Allow me to give you access to my toolbox. My book, Toolbox, Building Better Pro Wrestling, is available right now. Amazon.com will print a copy and send it directly to you, or you can get a digital copy of Toolbox. Better yet, grab the audiobook from Audible. I will read it to you myself.